And I'm going to go over how to set up the wazer software. So in Canvas, if you go right here, there's a button that you can click. It may not be orange if you're on your iPad. That's going to take you to the wazer website, basically. And on this website, you have to log in. It'll look like this. You just do Tomorrow Lab, and then the password's COVID 2020, which is easy to remember. Once you're in, it'll look like this. First thing you're going to do is import a file. Your file either has to be an SVG or a DXF. So if I go here, I'm on a Mac, so it's a little different than a PC, but I'm just going to search for an SVG. See what comes up. Maybe this one. Boom, little bird, right? So right now I have this bird. I can split it, which means it will do things differently. I think that's if you have multiple. I can't remember. I can make copies just right here. Boom, 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 right? Or I could say no, go back, import the file. Oh. So here we go. This is all based on in the web, so you could do this on your, your iPad, anything, right? Because it's basically just in a web. I'm in Chrome, right? Once you have your file, and it has little things here that'll let you tell you what you need to do, right? So only DXF, split. This function separates all non-closed curves. So if you've done Illustrator, you know that a closed curve is something where it goes all the way around and connects. If it isn't, then it's an open one. So separates all non-closed curves, cut groups into individual paths. So I wouldn't worry about it yet. Scale and position. So you can basically move this around anywhere. And a lot of times this bed here, is just like the bed when you look into the wazer. So say I've already bolted down my metal, and I know it's 1, 2 over and 1, 2 down is like the point where my metal starts. I might go, oh, I want to move my thing I want to cut out here, right? You can also, let me see. You can also, if once you click on it, you can change the rotation if you want, where it is, X and Y. That's basically what I'm doing right here, right? The scale, so if you want to make it bigger or smaller, and then you can do that just by width and height, right? If you didn't know the scale, if you just knew you wanted it to be 2 by 2, right? So if I went 2, see, is it going to constrain it? Yeah, it does. So the material, this is pretty important. Depending on what kind of material you're using, you need to find what's the closest to it. So you can see and do steel and stainless steel and aluminum and all these copper, all this stuff. The thing to keep in mind though is when you're doing something really hard like stainless steel, I guess it has 1/8 of an inch, which is kind of surprising it can go that thick, but it probably is super slow. Same thing with steel. It's going to be a lot slower than if you do a softer metal like, copper, right? Thin copper will go. You can also do plastics. You can do ceramics. You can do basically almost just about anything, right? So let's go ahead and pretend that we're going to cut this out of 6061 aluminum, and we're going to do it 1/2 inch thick, which is really thick, right? So then once we have our material set, then we pick our cutting path. So in here you could go, oh, I'm going to pick, it's just going to highlight the whole thing basically. If you have more intricate stuff, that's when you can do the split, and then you can start to say, okay, I don't want this cut, but I want this cut. Right here, this gets a little confusing always for me, but the offset is built in. So the offset is set of curved lines. Okay, these is compensate for when you cut, the cut is thick, right? Like the cut isn't it's not like it doesn't lose material when you cut it. It's usually called a curve, right? So if I cut something with a saw blade, the saw blade's 1/8 of an inch thick, and I want to make something 1/2 inch long, I need to cut outside of the 1/2 inch, or else it'll be less than 1/8, right? So basically, a lot of this depends on what, if you're cutting something on the outside, then what it's going to do is cut on the outside here, and the inside, it's smart enough to know, oh, you want to save what's there, right? And the inside does the reverse. Center line, it just splits the difference, right? Now, it's a pretty small gap, but if you're trying to make precision part, it does add up. So usually what I like to do is the outside. So outside, the offset, okay, it's just really small, so that's why. Tabs and leads, so let's just make this thing bigger so it stops yelling at us. Let's go here. Okay. Boom. So if we go here and we'll make this 5 inches, nice and big, right? We have to go back. Material still stays the same, but then what we need to do is select that. Now, if we go to tabs and leads, a tab is just, it's going to leave a part right here. It shows them as these little pieces here. What that is it's going to not cut right there. It's going to skip so that your piece doesn't start to wobble around, right? So some way to stay. I always just sort of do automatic tab placement. I mean, this kind of seems a little, only putting like 1 and 1, but it might just be based on side. I could go in and say, okay, I want to put some more in, right? I want to put one here and put one here. I'm worried about that. And you're on the tail, right? Doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. Leads is it gonna start the cut zooming in, or is it gonna just start the cut? So leads disabled is just start the cut. Leads enabled is it's gonna go in. Then all you got left is cut, which is you just tell it coarse, medium, or fine. And as soon as you tell it, it's going to tell you how long it's going to take. So see this job, because remember it's supposed to be thick aluminum, would take 2 hours and 37 minutes. Use 52 pounds of abrasive. And the extents are basically a square around it would be 5 inches. So then if I was like, that's cool, or I could do fine in 3 hours and 13 minutes. I'm like, yes, perfect. That's what I want to do. Or just generate job file. I guess this is why it would be difficult to do on your iPad, because I got to register the serial number. If I generate the job file, it downloads it, and then I got to put on an SD card, right? So like a little SD card like this to put into the machine. So you have to eventually get to something where you can burn onto this. So might be the only drawback. You could definitely get your files set and then download them to your Google Drive and then do it from there. No big deal.